Well, good afternoon, family and friends. I'd like to welcome you to Hillcrest, or Hillside Chapel rather, here at Memorial Chapel at Rose Hills for the service of your loved one for Darlene Ruth Hard. Before we begin, just a quick announcement. If you could take the time to either silence or turn off your phones or electronic devices, that would be much appreciated. Also, if you haven't discovered already, there are restrooms on both sides of the entranceway there. On this side, you have to push kind of hard to get into them. And at this time, we're going to start our service off with Mona coming up and leading in the eulogy.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're gathered here to honor our beloved Darlene. Some of you are related family members. Some have known Dar from the world of tennis. And some of us are members of her own very special USC Trojan family. Each of us have a special, unique relationship with Dar. She nurtured each individual connection in a variety of ways. Above all, she admired and respected others' dedication and commitment to a, quote, job well done. And indeed, did she do well. As we all know, she was born with incredible natural athletic ability. However, she worked diligently to perfect her tennis skills that early on placed her on the world stage. And no matter how high she climbed, she remained extremely humble about her career and her prowess as an international tennis champion. Darlene loved animals. If you ever were walking with her and there was an animal anywhere close by, including a perfect stranger simply walking their dog, Dar would bend over, reach down, offer her hand, and immediately start talking directly to the animal, who would warm up to her immediately. Owners were flabbergasted and pleased that she would relate so naturally to their pets. She was a true animal lover. Over the years, she adopted many rescue pets. Among her animal kingdom were her champion jumper horses, the Pied Piper, Peter, for short, and June, named June Moon. She had Ruffian, the raccoon, Mandy, a spider monkey, Muffy, Fresca, and Morris cats. She collected turtles, rabbits, and made a home for a pet goat named Easter Lily. And we at USC knew her for her favorite Maltese puppies, Helen and Troy, of course. And of late, she took in Hercules, Miss Piggy, Ginger, and her very favorite, who still remains with us, little Rosie. In 1977, my husband Terry and I were living near Griffith Park, and we decided to take some tennis lessons. We signed up for a series from the local pro at the Vermont Canyon Courts. One day, while having my racket restrung, I noticed a small 3x5 handwritten card near the cash register, and it simply said, U.S. Champ, 1960-1961. I asked the assistant, I said, what does that mean? She said, oh, that's your tennis teacher, Darlene. I said nothing to Dar, but went back down to USC to the library. This was, of course, before the days of the internet. And I searched through the encyclopedia over in Doheny Library, where I found page after page, multiple listings of Darlene's extraordinary tennis career. US Open champ, French Open, Wimbledon doubles, Whiteman Cup, Pan American Games, and the list goes on and on. A few days later, I said to her, Dar, I did not know you were a famous tennis player. Her reply, "Oh, moans, that was a lifetime ago." We continued lessons with Dard for a year or two, and through several conversations became aware that she was nearing the end of her tennis teaching career. The courts were too hard on her, the sun, etc. And it seemed she would be pleased to graciously retreat from the tennis courts to embark on another career at USC. And as all of you know, she became a 40-year member of our little USC student publications family. I'd like to read an excerpt from an essay that resonated apparently with Darlene early on in her tennis career. Quote, "I am immersed in a sea of calmness. I align myself with its flow of quiet strength. The calmness sustains me. Because I desire to do well, I am filled with expectancy. I am thankful that I do not have to do this alone, that there is always one who is with me at all times to help me when I turn to him. Ask that your joy may be complete. Ask, and you shall receive." I am so grateful that our paths crossed so many years ago. Becoming best friends with Darlene enriched my life beyond words. We will always love you, Dard. And now I'd like to invite others to share some favorite remembrances.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sylvia Burrow. I am with USC Transportation Department. I'm a Gate Services Ambassador. I met Darlene upon her entry into McCarthy coming to work. On first occasion, it was just a good morning, how are you today? The second occasion, I chatted with her a little bit further, asked her what she did there at the campus, and she told me she was editor of the newspaper, and I was quite pleased when she told me that because I had a thing for reading the Daily Trojan and working the crossword puzzles. I'm a crossword puzzle girl. So I was very pleased when she told me she was the editor, and I told her that I actually had the newspaper guy personally deliver my paper to me every morning, and I had pictures of him. So she was very pleased with that. I think on the third occasion, I asked her if I could take a picture of her. And she said yes, and she leaned back and she gave me a beautiful smile, which I still have that photo. I have it in my vehicle right now. About the fourth occasion, we were chatting, and she leaned back and she said, "Do me a favor." And I said, "What's that?" She said, "Look up the name Darlene Hard." And she just drove away. And I said, "Okay." So I went home that evening and I looked her up, and I was floored. I was just amazed, I was proud, I was appreciative, I was excited. I couldn't wait to see her again because I never knew exactly which day I would see her, but upon her arrival the next time when I saw her, I jumped up and down clapping my hands. I was so happy to see her, and I told her that I did seek out the information that she told me about. I did do the research, and I was very proud of her, very, very proud of her. And I actually asked Darlene, I asked her if she would actually play tennis with me, because I'm a tennis fanatic also. I don't get to play often. I play fairly decent, but I have a love for tennis. And she actually said yes. She actually told me, she said, "Yes, I will." And she said something to the effect that she was going to give me a hard run for my money, even though she was older in age. And I was very pleased because I knew she would. I knew she would. I was very happy to see her every morning. She did bring an uplifting joy to my life. I enjoyed seeing her drive up unassuming, unflamboyant, just such a natural lady, just such a natural lady. I'm going to miss her. I was very sad when I was told the information by Mona, I was very sad, and even sadder when I heard the news from them later on. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm very sorry for your loss. I thank you for doing such a beautiful job for her. I thank God that I got a chance to meet her. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tim Diedrich. Oh, that works good. I'm Darlene's cousin. And I really wanted to come today and thank Mona for starting the ball rolling on the remembrance of Darlene. And thank Claire for getting these newspaper articles. I don't know if you gave them this info or they found it themselves. I had a feeling it was Sherry. So I wanted to thank you for doing that because in hindsight, she was 17 years older than me. And I missed her whole story because I was a boy. However, I do have good memories of the days, of the early days, before you guys knew her. And I just have to say a good thing about her mom, Aunt Ruth. She was my favorite aunt, and like another parent from South LA, who's in the movies now, she decided her daughter was gonna play tennis on public courts. And I'm so proud of her for her athleticism and her motivation. And our whole family was over the top of the world for years. All we talked about was Darlene's achievements. And Claire was a great sport about it. I often wondered, what's it like to have the superstar for a sister? But this is a chance to praise my family and how we were working class people in South LA, and we had never had anybody in the family go to Europe other than my dad in D-Day. And so I know there were family trips. Claire got to go to Europe, I know, or at least New York. And some of the family went to Australia. It was my aunts and uncles followed her a little bit. And so I look forward to you filling us in, Claire, because my memory's not that good. But I just want to convey how much she made our family feel like we were world-class people. And because Darlene was the golden girl, she was the only niece for many years. And I think my dad's brothers and sisters all treated her like their own. And that's another thing I wanted to share is the amount of love in our family. And I know Darlene felt that. It was such a great feeling to be surrounded by cousins and aunts and uncles at the holidays. And knowing that everybody loved me and they were there for me every holiday. And then my joke about Aunt Ruth's house is that she was my favorite aunt because she had bags of tennis balls and tennis rackets. And my brothers and I would launch more tennis balls into the neighbors' yards than we would when she was trying to give us a lesson against the garage door. And it just, I can look back now and say thank you for those days. And going to visit you guys was so great with my two cute cousins, and reminds me of Darlene's red and white convertible. I was a young boy, you got to remember, so I was easily impressed by things like that. It had a foot pedal that either had a bell or a whistle. And as a young boy, I just thought that was, I'd never seen a girl like that who had a car like that. I finally got to see her play at the LA Tennis Club in the mid-60s and was not impressed. I watched her get beat by Maria Bueno, Althea Gibson, and at least twice by Billie Jean King. I haven't liked Billie Jean King since then. Although she did bring her to visit us a couple times, I remember that. I'm really proud of Ruth's and Darlene's roles in the dawn of women's sports. I know that Ruth and her sister played high school sports at Huntington Park High School, and it was just the beginning of women's sports. And then, how about those newspaper articles with the quote from Rod Laver, who said she was possibly the best mixed doubles player ever, and that when Darlene played, he didn't have to play so hard because she could handle everything. And then Billie Jean King saying that Darlene was her role model, mentor, friend. And Billie Jean King, I didn't know, had her name on the biggest building at the Hall of Fame in Rhode Island. Which reminds me, I've never been there, so I guess we all have to go see Darlene's thing at the Hall of Fame in Rhode Island. It was an age of minorities in sports, women in sports, and one of my favorite quotes from, some of my favorite quotes are that Darlene was a disruptive influence on the tennis team. And that's just the way she was. I think she was way too smart to be a star. She saw the possible corruption of fame, and also she couldn't play tennis like she used to, and so it helped me understand why she decided to go in another direction. My favorite line in the article was when it said after her career, Darlene would go and hit with the guys at the LA Tennis Club. Now, do you know the quality of the players at the LA Tennis Club? Do you know how few women could even do that? But Darlene could. And it reminded me a compliment that I give to my athletic daughters, because they ride with the guys. And it made me so proud that they're continuing the family tradition of athleticism, and their children are athletic. And I'm just basically, I'm just so proud of our family and how loving and much love I felt, and I know Claire and Darlene must have felt it too. We had the best aunts and uncles, and they're all gone. And then the funny thing that I remembered, I'm remembering these funny snippets. When I saw her photo playing in the newspaper, I noticed her muscular thighs. Well, my daughters have those thighs too. And she played a very aggressive game, and and as a young boy, I just thought she looked really good in a short tennis skirt.
One of my fondest memories of Darlene wasn't a one-time occasion. It happened all the time. In the springtime each year, just before commencement, when yearbook season arrived on campus, Darlene would sit in Han Plaza in slightly different locations over the years. I remember her near the open end of a freight truck, or under a tent by the pharmacy, or just in front of the kiosk in the middle of the parkway, always behind a table stacked high with yearbooks in careful rows. Wherever it was, that was Darlene's domain. Giving out yearbooks to students was something she didn't just enjoy, she took pride in it. She would always ensure that it was done just right. She enjoyed seeing the students and sharing the book with them that she had worked on so hard, often connecting with athletes and smiling with graduates and their families as they took part in that time-honored tradition. The parts I remember most fondly, though, were the quiet downtimes in the slower third week of yearbook distribution. As the spring weather touched the oasis of the University Park campus and the plaza began to bustle with pre-commencement activity. With fewer students needing to pick up books that week, there were plenty of chances for Darlene to sit and take it all in. And sometimes I was lucky enough to sit with her for a while. She would watch it all, keeping note of what was happening in our little corner of the world as commencement day drew nearer. Chairs being unfolded into rows in Alumni Park, families taking pictures by Tommy Trojan. But mostly, the dogs. It was like someone biting into a pastry only to discover that the filling was the most delicious treat that they had ever tasted. When a student or staff member would walk by with a dog, Darlene's face would light up with delight and an instant, easy empathy for that four-legged friend. Even better would be the times the dog and owner would come up to the table for a visit. That's the part I think of so often and fondly, the sparkle in Darlene's eyes, the unique way that her face would just come alive with delight and unrestrained love. The way Darlene would instantly connect with an animal friend was truly magical. She would positively beam, and that energy was felt not just by the dog, but by everyone around. You hear cliches about someone's smile lighting up a room, but Darlene's connection with animals was on another level entirely. The way her eyes would dance and the unabashed warmth that she shared. No animal was ever a stranger to Darlene. Everyone was like a long-lost friend that she had been just hoping to hug. The world around didn't matter so much when there was a furry friend to visit with. While there are so many qualities that I appreciated about Darlene and memories that I return to, it's those moments of magical connection, that gleam in her eyes. That's what I carry closest to my heart. Thank you.
Hi, I want to thank the family for allowing me to be here today, and it's just wonderful to be in a room with people who love Darlene, and I've been thinking about all of you a lot. So my name is Lisa Beckett, and I started working, teaching and coaching at Pomona College in 1987, and a year before that, or a few years before that, I'd taken a history of women's sports class at my college, and I had learned about Darlene. So she was certainly a tennis great and someone that I knew about. And when I came to the campus, one of the first things I did was look up all the different alums that had played tennis there to try to strengthen the connection between the college and the current players and then the former players, and found out that Darlene worked at USC, and I just made a cold call. And I remember her just, being a little bit surprised, and I asked her if she wanted to come to campus, and she said that that was kind of her past life, tennis, and that, probably it wasn't something that she was going to do. And I said, okay, well, would it be okay if I just kept in touch with you? And she said, sure, that's fine. So anyway, I just would ask her each year. We'd have an alumni event, and I'd check in with her and see if she wanted to come out. And then at one point, it was about 10 years after I first, had contact with her, I found out she was being inducted into the Intercollegiate Hall of Fame. And so I was lucky enough to go with Darlene as a representative of Pomona College and her mother, Ruth, to the induction, which was in Williamsburg, Virginia. And I would tell people, yeah, Darlene invited me to come along. And then Darlene would always say, well, actually, Lisa, you invited yourself. And that was kind of a running joke, and she might have been right. I might have invited myself. But so that was wonderful to go back and kind of, for Darlene, I think, to relive some really important moments in her life and to be recognized that way, and then a year later, I was able to go to Wimbledon with Darlene and her mother Ruth and her aunt Betty, and we went to Wimbledon for about 10 days, and I'm not sure how I ended up being able to go to that, but it was the biggest thrill of a lifetime for me in the tennis world, and spending time with Darlene and her wonderful mother and her wonderful aunt, and just being a kind of a tag-along. And I have plenty of other memories with Darlene, but I wanted to share with you, so Darlene's coach at Pomona College was a woman named Ann Badges, who couldn't be here today because her health is not really good enough right now for her to come out here, but she wanted me to share some memories of coaching Darlene and being Darlene's friend. So Darlene went to Pomona College for 5 semesters. She wanted to be a pediatrician, from what I understand, and this is what Ann Badges, some of her memories. She says, I met Darlene in the fall of 1959 on the old Pomona College tennis courts on the last day to register for the Pomona College classes. Because I know from what Ann said that Darlene was kind of going back and forth as to whether or not she was going to be on the tour full-time or go to school. And so she showed up, and I think this kind of is consistent with what you said. Ann said that she arrived in her red car with a horn that sounded like a bugle blaring and announcing her arrival. And Anne had said that although Anne had little tennis experience, she'd been asked to coach the women's team. Basically, they needed an adult to stand on the court. She said that Darlene immediately came up to her, introduced herself, and then proceeded to borrow Anne's brand new Wilson Pancho Gonzalez racket. Anne had gone out and bought a racket because she thought a tennis coach should probably have a racket. And according to Anne, Darlene played her usual aggressive game and chased all over the court, running down balls and scraping her racket on the court and basically trashing it in one afternoon. So she played with a lot of heart. And then she also mentioned about Darlene being so kind and taking her to watch Billie Jean play, and then taking her to Billie Jean's house, and also to the LA Tennis Club to watch tennis and actually to learn more about tennis. And I know that in the time that Anne and Darlene were together, Darlene taught her so much about tennis that helped her. Anne coached for the next 25 or 30 years, so Darlene lived on in Anne's coaching. And I'm just glancing through my notes. I think, you talk about, Darlene's love for animals was just, amazing. And she loved children too. When I met Darlene, shortly thereafter, we had 3 small children, and she would always bring them little gifts and play with them. And she would bring her little dog at the time, and the kids just loved the dog. And she took them to the LA Zoo, and just such a wonderful, loving, true blue. I think Mona mentioned this. Once Darlene was your friend and you were her friend, there was just, she would go to great lengths to be there for you. And so anyway, at Pomona College, we all love Darlene and really are so thankful that she, was a part of our lives. Thank you.
My name is Nancy Long. I just get to know Darlene 20 years ago as she brought her mom to the shop where I work as manicurist. And while she worked there, she had me do her nails. I guess we hit off as she became to my client and a friend, true friend. From that point on, she lived in Woodland Hill, and I worked in a prayer, but she would drive like over 100-mile round trip to come to see me every other week from Saturday. That time on, that she was ready to come. I think when she considered there are about 100 manicurists within 10 miles of her house. We could have lunch to get together from time to time and talk about many things. She was truly a great friend for me, and I love her every time other Saturday morning along with her cute dog Ginger together. Or this year's when she planned to come I could go to her house instead of her coming down 1 month. The last time I got to see her was 6 weeks ago when her sister brought her down to see me. I so much appreciate and really feel honored to have been a friend of Darlene, and I already missed out time together. May she rest in peace. Nancy.
While I'm up here, I might as well get mine done. I have a few of people that were not able to come, so I'll read theirs after I do mine, and I will do my brother's also, who wasn't able to come. He works for Starbucks, and he was just not able to get off for work to come. And plus now the snow, he wasn't able to come. My fondest memories of Darlene were all the animals that she had on her property at different times of her life. She lived on an acre of land and was able to have lots of animals. It was like going to a petting zoo. What I can remember her having were multiple dogs and cats, 2 rabbits, a goat, 2 horses, 3 monkeys, a raccoon, fish, a rat, and probably about 2 or 3 turtles. Probably there are others and I don't remember. I loved to go and ride the horses. The one horse I rode a lot was Peter, like Mona was saying, Peter, which was Pied Piper. He was a thoroughbred, but he was very gentle. He loved kids. He was an ex-Olympic show jumper, but he was used for training. The other horse was June Moon, Junie, and she was a Tennessee walker. Normally, we rode the horses in the front yard, but sometimes we got to take them out off the property and would walk through the neighborhood. And the kids would, of course, come around and love to see horses go by. A story that Darlene loved to tell people was one time when she and her friends, Marcy and Joanne, took Mandy, which was that spider monkey. They went to go get ice cream at McDonald's. Mandy wore a size 3 child's t-shirt and knew when she saw that shirt come out of the closet, she got to go somewhere. Marcy had a truck and was in the driver's seat. Joanne was seated in the middle, and Darlene was in the passenger seat. And Mandy was sitting in the open window part of the passenger seat and had her foot out the door, propped up against the side mirror, and her tail up and over the door. Darlene had Mandy hooked on a leash so she wouldn't go anywhere. When Marcy stopped at a stoplight, Darlene just happened to look down at a car next to him. That person had their window down and was looking around. They spotted Mandy in the window and was terrified that monkey was going to get loose and couldn't roll up the window fast enough. But they, of course, couldn't see that Darlene was holding on to Mandy. I'll go. My brother's is, my name is Gary Brundage. I'm the nephew of Aunt Darlene. Remembering the best fond memories I have had with Aunt Darlene was with Grandma and Sherry going on a trip to the Pacific Northwest in Winnebago. 2 weeks vacation, trip, bed, on wheels, out on an open road. I remember several tidbits of Aunt Darlene and 3 of us playing the game of what's the famous place and states are famous for. Aunt Darlene would ask series of questions to each of us, including Grandma. Back in 1986, I was fresh out of passing driver's test and able to drive the expensive Winnebago. Darlene trusted me to drive her new Winnebago. She said, "I want you to drive and get to the destination by the time and spend the night there." Darlene sat back behind and the table and played solitaire. Sherry was my navigator. Darlene would yell out, "Tell Gary, what's the famous food in Oregon?" I had to look up in the travel book and find the answers for her. I would have to tell Sherry to tell her it's Tillamook cheese. She would say, "You are correct. You get ice cream with your dinner." Back in the 80s, we don't have smartphones and ask Siri all for the answers. We learned how to read and fold up map and use yellow highlighter markers to trace the roads we had already traveled. Darlene and Grandma were often asked us bunches of questions and have us look it up to sharpen our brains during summertime off from school. Oftentimes, she had tested us every day to keep up with our studies in history and geography. Aunt Darlene was great at playing games. I will never forget the memories I have had with Aunt Darlene. I will always love you. I will definitely miss you terribly. Fight on, Aunt Darlene. The other ones are some of our staff members that are from we had before and then are no longer with us. One is David Califf that wrote, "Before I knew Darlene, I identified her with the white tent that was sprouted up in Han Plaza each spring. After the yearbook had been printed and was finally ready to be distributed after so many months of work. Later I learned yearbook distribution season was a time of year at USC as real as fall or summer, and the season was heralded by Darlene in the white tent. I was a freshman at the time and had joined the Daily Trojan that spring, so I had only met Darlene in passing. She and Sherry would be under the yearbook tent for weeks, and Darlene would spend all day long there, sometimes on miserable hot days, making sure students had no excuse not to pick up their yearbooks. She did that for years, and it is so emblematic of her work ethic and her determination to get a job done. Much later, I would join her in that tent as a staff member, occasionally helping to pass out books or break down the tent at the end of the day. It was during those years that I felt like I really got to know her. She could be gruff at times, but she also laughed easily. She was loyal and reliable and strongly principled. Most of all, she took great pride in a job well done. Darlene had the personality of a star athlete, and so even though I knew her long after her tennis days, it was never difficult to imagine her on the court, staring down her opponent and tacking the ball with gusto. She was a fixture at USC that touched thousands of lives, both students and staff, and she will be greatly missed. Another one of our staff members that are still with us right now is Jeff Tylicki. He's up north right now taking care of his mom. People who got to know Darlene quickly learned her love of animals. She adored her pets, and they brought her great joy and companionship. Her tales of keeping the girls, like Ginger and Miss Piggy, in line, swimming, out for a walk, feeding time, nap time, were fun to hear. She always lit up when there was a visit to the student union from a Daily Trojan student or customer's dog. and was never too busy to take a little time to play and chat. She was also a great matchmaker between people and pets needing a home, knowing how a puppy or kitten around the house made life a little brighter. I could count on stories about my cat with Darlene and get her interpretation of what he was thinking. Dar understood the fur babies and spoke their language. Another current staff member right now is Terry Gilly. He's actually at work keeping our office open right now. Darlene had a bit of Florence Nightingale in her personality. I experienced this in a very personal way. In January 2012, I suffered a cerebral hemorrhage. After 16 days in the hospital, I spent 7 days recovering and then returned to student publications at USC, shaky and often unsteady on my feet. I had been commuting to work on buses for years, but after my illness, I was sometimes out of balance and wobbly. Taking buses was going to be a challenge. My partner, Joe, drove me to work mornings, and Darlene insisted on driving me home each evening. I told her it was too far out of the way, but she still insisted that she would take me home, and our director, Mona, would allow us to leave the office early to beat some of the traffic. My apartment was at least 6 miles off of the Crenshaw exit of the Santa Monica Freeway. So Darlene was definitely going 12 miles round trip out of her way and making a long detour on her long commute home to Woodland Hills. And she did that for 8 months. It's no trouble for me. It's not that far out of my way, Darlene said. But of course, it was out of her way. She helped me immeasurably at a time in my life when I really mattered. I loved Darlene, and that aspect of her personality made me love her even more. A couple more. Another one of her friends is Donna Judd. She's fell and broke her hip and femur, I believe, so she wasn't able to join us today. My friend and I drove up to Griffith Park one day in the 1960s to talk to Darlene Hard about taking lessons from her. But Darlene was booked up for months. Fortunately, there was an empty court, and we started hitting. Darlene watched, then said she had invitation-only room in her advanced class on Saturday mornings. Did we want to join? We did. What better way to spend my hard-earned first year of teaching salary? This began a beautiful relationship for over 50 years. I still have my tennis notebook of advice from our lessons. Dated January 1st, 1967. I had to miss the lesson in order to play a final on the lower level Griffith Park courts. Joanne suggested she and Darlene come watch, and they showed up. Having won this first set easily, I promptly lost the second after they arrived. During the 10-minute break, I was too embarrassed to come off the court. But Joanne came down and relayed all kinds of complimentary messages from Darlene. She made me feel so great that I won the third set, 6-0. Plus Dard treated me to lunch. What a day. Several years of lessons and friendships followed. In the notebook again, dated 2/5/1967, I certainly never thought I would be able to say, I just played tennis with my friend Darlene Hard, only the former world champion. Eventually, marriage, teaching jobs, and babies caused me to focus less on tennis and lost track of Darlene. Decades pass. One Saturday in the 1990s. I was pruning our front yard roses when a handsome stranger pulled up in a red convertible, staring at me, yelled, "Hey, Miss Judd, I'm one of your ex-students. Are you still involved in lots of tennis?" We began chatting, and he mentioned that a client had a daughter who was the world-class player Darlene Hard. Ruth Hard, my grandmother, lives just 2 blocks from me. So a couple of weeks later, with tennis book in hand, I stood at Ruth's door and reconnected with Darlene. When Darlene would drive down to Fullerton to visit her mom or get her nails done, we'd play cards, play with the dogs in my backyard, watch tennis, or talked about life for hours. I remember us watching a Wimbledon semi with a server down break point. I grabbed Darlene's arm and excitedly told her, "This is a really important point." She just smiled sweetly, and we both had a good laugh. Dart often dropped by without calling ahead. One of those times was when she came by to tell me personally about her mom's death. I was so touched. Health issues seems to have taken a toll on all of us in recent years. Again, in the notebook, 1967, I noted, Darlene notices everything: expressions, hesitancy, embarrassment, and she hears everything on and off the court as well. She also very decisive and firm in her own mind, but also perceptive and observant of people. By 2021, I knew how fortunate I had been to have a loving friend as generous and kind-hearted as she was, for Darlene Hard was a champion in every way. Got 2 more to go, you guys? My nephew, my brother's son, Austin. My fondest memory of Darlene would have to be of my earliest ones of her. First impressions are among the most important, after all. It was when I was playing knock rummy with her, Grandma, and Grandma Hard. It was a wonderful time, honestly. It's so sad to hear about her passing, as while I didn't get to spend a large amount of time with her, the time I did spend was cherished. And the final one I have is a student that went to USC and was a nephew of Joanne's, which is Tyler Warnock. I applied to USC as a senior in high school because I had been made aware of Swim with Mike scholarship for disabled athletes, but I probably would have been accepted under normal circumstances. But through the help of Darlene, her friend Mona, and Ron Orr at Swim and Mike, they were able to get me admitted to USC in 2005. I remember being so excited, and when I showed up to freshman orientation before the start of the school year, Darlene met me with a huge bag of USC gear from the bookstore. Throughout my time at USC, I would frequently go to Darlene's office in the yearbook department to talk about stuff or just say hi. We were both always happy to see each other, and I could tell that she was always proud of me for pursuing my education and keeping up with the rigors of a top university. She had to scold me once because I missed the deadline for graduation photos during my senior year. But then Darlene and Mona took my graduation photos themselves outside their office because she wasn't going to stand for me not being in the yearbook. I owe a lot to Darlene, and I want to thank her for everything on behalf of me and my family. She will be deeply missed.
Family and friends, this concludes our service here. As part of our conclusion, we will have an opportunity, if you would like to come forward, for a final viewing. And also, the family has asked that if you would like to take the flowers from this beautiful arrangement and place it with your loved one here, you can do so. So I'll do that in just a moment. And this does conclude our service here. We're concluding it here at the chapel. So thank you so much on behalf of the family for coming today. And please be careful as you go home. Thank you very much. We can come forward from the back, forward. Those of you that would like to view and/or share your condolences with the family, you can come forward.